Beer here back at the Fantasy Bar. 6 of my favorite plays for Week 7 on FanDuel and DraftKings, including what wide receiver I think is way too cheap over on DraftKings, a running back tight end correlation play, and what game am I stacking up this week, including my favorite play. Who is it? Belly up to the Fantasy Bar and find out. Welcome in, guys. Week 7 edition Beers Daily Fantasy Six-Pack. Good to be back here once again in the friendly confines of the Fantasy Bar with 6 of my favorite plays on FanDuel and DraftKings fresh off the tap for you. As always, before we dive in to Week 7, let's take a look back at Week 6, and not going to hide from it, not going to sugarcoat it. Week 6 was absolutely horrendous. As good as Derrick Henry was, as big of a score as he put up in that B spot, he kind of masked some of the other guys. It was a very disappointing week. Hit me in the pocketbook as well, and I hate it affected you guys out there playing as well. So what we can do, we can move on. We're not going to sit here and cry in our beers. We wiped Week 6 away. We start fresh here with Week 7, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, before we get into Week 7, guys, do me a favor. Even though last week wasn't so good, make sure you hit that thumbs up button over on YouTube. Really helps us out. Even in a down week, I know there's supporters out there of the Fantasy Bar, so smash that like button. You guys did a great job of that last week. Thank you for that. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and get notified when the videos are coming out. All right, let's talk Week 7 here. Looks like a fun slate of games, some high totals, and let's start with one of those high total games with Detroit and Atlanta. We're going to go to the Atlanta side of things with running back Todd Gurley leading us off this week in this six-pack. So Gurley, one of those guys, you know, a lot of supporters in the Gurley camp, a lot of guys that say he's done, he's toast. There doesn't seem to be a middle ground, but what we care about is this week, and this week I want to get some exposure to Todd Gurley against this Lions defense. Let's take a look back at last week. 23 touches in that game against Minnesota, which happened to be a season high. No coincidence. They fire their coach. Todd Gurley starts to get more involved. Now, we did see Brian Hill get involved. Yes, we didn't see Todd Gurley do as much with those touches. I get it, no doubt. But anytime I can get 20-some touches from a running back, tough to find these days in the NFL at these prices. You know, 6,000, 6,600. You're not going to get running backs with that kind of volume. And let's take a look at this matchup. We mentioned the Lions. We'll hit on them here in a second. But let's look at the Atlanta side of things. Home favorites, checks that box. That's where we want our running backs to come from. 29 projected team total here for the Falcons. Checks another big box here. And the Lions, like we said, 6 most fantasy points allowed to the running back position. So it's a matchup I'm going to continue to attack here. Gurley checking all the boxes. Definitely not everyone's flavor. Hey, that's why we serve up 6 here in the Fantasy Bar. Not a fan of Gurley, I get it. But I love this spot, love the price, and love this matchup against the Detroit Lions. All right, let's go to the other side of that game. I think this one can definitely shoot out. Let's go to tight end with T.J. Hockenson of the Lions. So we're not going to shy away from this Lions passing game. You know, disappointed us last week. Stafford was okay. Marvin Jones definitely was on the side of a milk carton here. But T.J. Hockenson, a guy I want to go to here in this matchup. I really think the Lions going to have to throw more here. We saw them play with a big lead against Jacksonville. That led to a lot of carries for Adrian Peterson and this week's darling, DeAndre Swift, who I do think will garner a lot of ownership here against the Falcons. But let's not shy away from this passing game. Now, Hockenson, we really haven't seen the big breakout game. Been very good as far as consistency, as far as a floor, as far as a cash game type play. But we have yet to see that huge blow-up game. Has found the end zone in back-to-back games, has scored now in 3 of the Lions' first 5 games. But Atlanta been awful against the tight end position. And this is what's telling me could unlock that ceiling here for T.J. Hockenson. We have some injuries in that passing core for the Lions. Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola questionable as of this recording. Even if they play, I love the spot for Hockenson. We mentioned Atlanta, how bad they've been. 2nd most fantasy points allowed per game to the tight end position. And Hockenson finds the end zone here once again. And we get that ceiling game. I'm going to call for a big game here from Hockenson. I love the pairing and the correlation. Todd Gurley and T.J. Hockenson. All right, let's get to the wide receiver play. I promise you guys, I think it's underpriced. That's Terry McLaurin of the football team. Now, still tough for me to call him the football team, but here we are. Terry McLaurin at 5,800 on DraftKings. Absolutely crazy. This guy should be mid-6s in my opinion. Hell, 7,100 on FanDuel. Still feels a little light on the potential upside for Terry McLaurin. The guy gets so many targets in this offense, it really doesn't matter who the quarterback has been. You know, his buddy gets benched, Kyle Allen comes in, still targets this guy an absolute ton. In fact, 7 or more targets in every game this season and 11 targets per game over the last 3 games. Now this matchup with Dallas is about as good as it gets. It's a team we've stacked against every single week. People may shy away here from Washington, and I don't think you need to stack with Allen. Certainly could go that route, but I like McLaurin in cash games, in tournaments, as a one-off, even as a running back if you're going with some Dallas stacks. Fits a lot of different builds here. Dallas, bottom 12 in the league, DVOA against the pass, and bottom 5 in fantasy points allowed to the position. Washington, not many other options to throw to here. I think Terry McLaurin has another big day, a ton of targets here. Again, way too cheap over on DraftKings at just $5,800. All right, let's stay at receiver. Finish up here, we're gonna go Will Fuller of the Texans. So he's filling that number 1 role, even with Brandon Cooks having big games. Will Fuller also having big games. That Texan schedule has really opened up after a tough stretch to start the season. We're starting to see what this offense can do, very similar to Atlanta as well. You get rid of the Bill O'Brien shackles, the offense starts to open up a little bit. Air yards, a lot of people love that stat. 55% he saw last week of the team's air yards against the Titans. We saw a back and forth affair, a running back going nuts on this team. Run it back with a Will Fuller, so hopefully that was a combination you had last week with Derrick Henry and Will Fuller. But this game kind of feels the same. We got a 57-point projected total from our friends in the desert. This one screams shootout, obviously. Doesn't take a genius to tell you that. But this is one that feels like could go way over that total. I don't know that 57 is high enough. These are the kind of games we're seeking out. I think this game could get into the 70s here. And a big reason why, be Will Fuller tearing up that Green Bay secondary. All right, we like Will Fuller, so we're going to pair him up with his quarterback, Deshaun Watson. So Watson been very good to us as well here in the 6-pack. In fact, been very good. We mentioned that Texan schedule opening up, and he's done very well as a result. 300 or more passing yards, so hit that bonus for you on DraftKings in each of the last 3 games. Multiple touchdown passes to go along with those as well, and it's given us almost 30 DraftKings points per game over that stretch. That's an easy 4 to 5x return each and every week. So how do we not lock that in our lineups? The Packers, 30th overall DVOA defense, 25th against the pass this season. We have not seen Watson running a lot yet, so putting up these numbers without really using his legs, so the ceiling could be even higher than what we've seen so far. Great matchup here with this Green Bay defense. Deshaun Watson, easily my favorite quarterback on the week. All right, it's time to take a look at my favorite play for week 7. But before we do that, guys, we're going to continue our Beast of the Week contest. All you have to do is get in the comment section right below the video. Make sure you've hit that thumbs up button and guess fantasy points for my Beast of the Week on DraftKings. Closest guess will win themselves a free week of RotoGrinders Premium. Or if you're already a loyal subscriber, we thank you for that. We'll send you a free RotoGrinders t-shirt. All right, let's wrap this baby up. My favorite play for week 7, you know him as the Beast of the Week. All right, Beast time, we owe you one more running back. There's a couple guys I really like, but we're going to stay in that Houston-Green Bay game and go with Aaron Jones, my favorite play of the week in this week's Beast of the Week. So we talk a lot of projected team totals here in the fantasy bar. Well, no team on the slate has a higher projected team total than the Green Bay Packers. We're talking about a projected team total over 30 points here against this Houston defense. Houston, a team I'm going to continue to pick on with running backs each and every week. We did it last week with Derrick Henry, who put up that massive score for us here. They've allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to the position, and more importantly, have allowed the most rushing touchdowns of any team in the league. And when you think about Aaron Jones, what is his best skill? Yes, he's a great pass catcher, electric in the open field, but this guy has a nose for the end zone, unlike any running back in football, maybe outside of Christian McCaffrey. Touchdowns are his game, but why not play him against a team and giving up a ton of touchdowns so far this season? Perfect match. Aaron Jones checking all the boxes, even after a down week last week. I'm going to throw that one aside. They got down in that game to Tampa Bay, kind of took the running game out of play here. And I know he's mixed in with some other running backs, but it doesn't take much for this guy to make some big plays and score multiple touchdowns. In fact, calling for those multiple touchdowns here, Aaron Jones, my favorite play on the week and this week's Beast of the Week. All right, guys, that'll wrap us up for week 7 in the Fantasy Bar. Any comments, questions, feedback, hit me up in that comment section. Don't forget, fantasy points for Aaron Jones on DraftKings. Closest guess for that shot at some RG Premium. You can also follow me on Twitter at Beermakersfan. For RotoGrinders.com, I am Beer saying salut. Best of luck this week, guys. Thank you, as always, for stopping by and hanging out here in the Fantasy Bar, and we'll see you.
Hey, thanks for checking out our videos. If you want more expert advice on DraftKings, FanDuel, or any other daily fantasy sports, make sure you check out the current videos playlist.